Good morning, students. I thought I would start out today with a read aloud. Reading is one of my favorite things to do. I really love in the morning to get like a nice cup of something warm to drink, a warm tea, and read a little bit for about a half an hour if I'm able to in the morning. It's a really nice practice and it keeps me calm and centered, and I highly recommend it. One of the things I miss so much about being in your class is doing our read aloud in the morning. I miss being able to read and have each one of you take turns reading, and I thought that we would start our read aloud chapter books with the next book that we talked about before spring break. So this book is The Wind in the Willows, and it's written by Kenneth Grahame, and it is one of my husband, Mr. Richard's, favorite books from when he was about your age. So it comes highly recommended. I've never read it myself, but so that's kind of exciting. So I'm just going to read it aloud and you can listen along, and like when we are in class, you want to be actively listening and do your best to follow along with this story. And you can talk to me and write in your journal about what you think is going to happen next and what you like about this story. So why don't we get started, okay? The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. Chapter 1, The Riverbank. The mole had been working very hard all morning, spring cleaning in his little home. First with brooms, then with rags, then with a brush and a pail of whitewash. Spring was moving in the air above, filtering down even into his dark little house beneath the soil. It was no wonder then that he suddenly flung down his brush and said, "Hang spring cleaning!" Something in the air above was calling him. He hurried out of the house, through a steep little tunnel, muttering, "Up we go!" till at last, pop! His snout came out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm meadow. "This is fine," he said to himself. "Better than whitewashing." He scampered across the sunny meadow until he reached the hedge on the far side. It all seemed too good to be true. Hither and thither through the meadows he rambled busily, finding birds, buildings, flowers budding, leaves rustling, and instead of feeling badly or not doing his work, he somehow felt jolly. After all, the best part of a day is not so much resting yourself, but to see everyone else busy working. He thought his happiness was complete when suddenly he stood on the edge of a flowing, sparkling river. He'd never seen a river before. He sat down enchanted. A dark hole in the opposite bank just above the water's edge caught his eye. Something bright twinkled at him, and so declared itself to be an eye. A small face appeared, a brown face with whiskers, a round face with a twinkle in its eye, with small neat ears and thick silky tail. Thick silky hair. It was the water rat. The two animals stood and eyed each other. "Hello, mole," said the water rat. "Hello, rat," said the mole. "Would you like to come over?" asked the rat. "Oh, it's all very well to talk," said the mole from across the flowing river. The rat said nothing, but untied a rope and pulled on it, and then lightly stepped into a little blue boat. It was just the size for two animals. The rat rowed rapidly across, tied up to the boat, and held out a paw to Mole. Soon the mole found himself actually seated in the back of a real boat. This has been a wonderful day, said Mole. Do you know I've never been in a boat before? What? Cried the rat, open-mouthed. It's the only thing. Believe me, my young friend, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, like simply messing about in boats. Simply messing. He went on dreamily. Messing about in boats. Look ahead, rat, cried the mole suddenly. It was too late. The boat struck the opposite bank with full force. The rat landed on his back at the bottom of the boat, his heels in the air. He picked himself up with a pleasant laugh. Ah, yes, there's nothing like a day in a boat. Look here, if you've got no other plans this morning, supposing we drop down the river together and have a long day of it. The mole wiggled his toes and leaned back on the cushions. What a day I'm having, he said. Let's us start at once. Hold on a minute. The rat slipped into the hole on the bank and returned with a lunch basket. What's inside? Asked the mole. A picnic. There's a cold chicken, replied the rat. Cold hemp pickle roll lemons ginger ale. Oh, stop, cried the mole. This is too much. You must think me very rude. But all this is new to me. So this is a river. The river, corrected the rat, as he rowed. It's my world, and I don't want any other. But isn't it a bit dull at times? The mole asked, dragging a paw into the water. Just you and the river and no one else to pass the world with? Dull? Asked the rat patiently. Never. The bank is so crowded nowadays that many people are moving away altogether. All day long there's always someone wanting to do something. What lies over there? Asked the mole, waving a paw towards the woodland that darkly framed the water's meadow on one side of the river. Oh, that's just the wildwood, said the rat. We river bankers don't go there. Aren't they very nice people there? Asked the mole, a bit nervously. Well, replied the rat, let me see. The squirrels are all right, and the rabbits, some of them. And then there's Badger, dear old Badger. Of course, there are others, weasels and stoats and foxes. They're all right in their way, but you really can't trust them, and that's a fact. And beyond the wildwood? Asked the mole. Beyond the wildwood comes to the wide world, said the rat. I've never been there, and I'm never going. Neither will you, if you've got any sense at all. Now then, let's have lunch. The rat brought the boat alongside the bank, tied the boat, and helped Mole safely ashore. Mole excitedly shook out the tablecloth and arranged the lunch, saying, Oh my, oh my. After they had eaten a little, Rat asked the mole, What are you looking at? I am looking, said the mole, at a streak of bubbles traveling across the surface of the water. A broad, glistening nose showed itself above the bank, and the otter hauled himself out. Greedy beggars, he said. Why didn't you invite me, Ratty? This was an unplanned event, explained the rat. By the way, my friend, Mr. Mole. Pleased to meet you, I'm sure, said the otter. There was a rustle behind him, coming from a hedge, and a stripy head with high shoulders behind it peered out at them. Come on, old Badger, shouted the rat. The badger turned his back and disappeared. That's just the sort of fellow he is, said the rat, disappointed. Stays to himself. Well, tell us, otter, who is out on the river? Toad's out, for sure, replied the otter, in his new water boat. New outfit, new everything. The two looked at each other and laughed. First, he took to sailing, said the rat. Then it was flat-bottom boats. Last year it was houseboating, and now a wagger boat? He gets tired of one thing and starts something new. No stability, remarked the otter wisely. Just when a wagger boat flashed into view. The rower, a short, stout fellow, splashed badly and rocked a good deal. The rat stood up and called to him, but Toad, for it was he, shook his head. "He'll be out of the boat in a minute," said Rat. The otter chuckled and then slipped away. "I suppose we ought to be moving on," said the rat. "I wonder which of us had better pack the lunch basket." "Oh, please let me," said the mole, which he did. The afternoon sun was getting low as the rat rode gently homeward, murmuring poetry things over to himself. The mole shouted with delight, "Ratty, please, I want to row." "Wait till you've had a few lessons." The mole, without comment, jumped up and grabbed the oars. The rat was taken by surprise and fell back off of his seat with his legs in the air for the second time. "Stop it, you silly fruitcake," cried the rat. "You'll have us over." The mole flung the oars back and missed the water altogether. His legs flew up and he found himself lying on the top of the upended rat. Then over went the boat. Oh my, how cold the water was to Mole! Oh, how very wet it felt. It sang in his ears and he went down, down. Then a firm paw gripped him by the back of his neck. The rat pulled the helpless animal to shore, hauled him up, and set him down on the bank, a squashy, pulpy lump of misery. The rat rubbed the mole down a bit and laughed, saying, "Now then, old fellow, trot up and down the bank as hard as you can till you're warm and dry again, while I dive for the basket." When Rat had brought everything up, the mole took his seat by the back of the road. "Ratty, I'm so sorry. Will you let things go on as before?" "What's a little wet to the water, Rat?" responded the rat. "I really think you would enjoy visiting with me for a time. My home is plain, but I could teach you how to row and swim. Soon you'll be as handy as the river bankers." The mole humbly accepted. When they got to the rat's home, the rat told the mole river stories until supper time. But very shortly afterward, a terrible sleepy mole had to be led upstairs to the guest bedroom, where he soon fell fast asleep. This day was only the first of many similar ones for Mole. As spring and summer moved on, he learned to swim and to row, and with his ear to the river reeds, he often would hear what the wind whispered among them. All right, so that's chapter 1 in Wind in the Willows, and we will continue reading that next time. Till then, have a good day, and I'll chat with y'all soon.